Now, okay, we're officially live. So welcome to PivotMe Live. I'm so excited about my guest today. I'm going to read you her amazing bio and then we'll get underway. So Gull Khan, it's around changing your relationship with money. She is a former banking and finance lawyer, left corporate to become a money mindset expert, author, international speaker, podcaster, barrister, and attorney and EFT expert. Gull is a former, she successfully overcame her battle with dyslexia and then completed her law degree at Queen Mary, University of London. She then went on to become a barrister. I've got to ask you about this barrister thing. I'm really interested in it. That's not a word that we get to throw around very often. I'm pretty impressed with it. So barrister with Middle Temple, attorney with the New York Bar, and a fully qualified solicitor with the Law Society of England and Wales in the UK. Man, you're also an intuitive life coach and certified emotional freedom technique expert with a special focus on money in each discipline. We were just talking about some of this, the money mindset stuff, and I'm so excited to get into it live. Thank you so much for joining us, Gull.
Thank you so much, April, for having me. I'm super excited to be speaking to you.
Yeah, this is great. So we were a little late popping on this morning, guys, and my apologies about that. But I just had so many questions for her about the work that she's doing with the money mindset. And then we were about to make this amazing connection. I'm like, we need to do this live. So we are finally here to do this. So you have really radically transformed a lot of the people that you work with, their money mindset, which ultimately translates into large dollars. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about the kind of people that you work with, which you just shared with me, which really resonated with the kind of people we work with here at PivotMe too. But before we get into this, talk to us about your backstory. I mean, obviously you've come from this banking and finance, law background, and now it sounds like you're doing something radically different. Talk to us about where you came from and how you're here doing this kind of work.
Well, thank you for that. So it's a long story, but I'll try and keep it as succinct as possible. My background is I'm a barrister. Basically, in UK, we have two types of lawyers. We have barristers who go to court and deal with solicitors and deal with the court matters. And then we have solicitors who actually deal with lay people, which actually deal with clients. And traditionally, they've been two distinct characters. You're either one or the other. Of late, I think just a few years ago, we were able to do both. So we had people transitioning over to both, and this is why I'm a barrister, and I became a barrister first. But then because of the experience I had working with all law firms that I worked with, I was able to apply and to pass the exams. I became a duly qualified both as a barrister with a Middle Temple, so I'm allowed to go to court, and at the same time I'm fully qualified solicitor, which allows me to talk to clients. So I can work in one capacity. I can't work in both, if that makes sense, right at the moment. But I'm able to do both. So that's where that quality is. I'm one of the rare breeds. And then I'm also qualified in New York because that's the exams I took. I decided to, I wasn't sure where I was going at that time. So that allows me to go and work in the state of New York. So that's my background. Now, how did I actually get to this point? What I ended up doing was pure luck. I mean, I would say destiny. I was destined to come to this point. I am severely dyslexic, and a fact which wasn't known to me until the age of about 19. So first year of my law degree. So at the end of my law degree, my tutor literally forced me into going in and getting an assessment done. And I literally went there screaming and shouting, and no, I'm not stupid, I'm not dumb, I'm very clever. By then, just keep in mind, we normally have 3 A levels in the UK. I did 5, so I was a super smart student. I'm thinking, I'm smart, I'm not dumb, I'm not dyslexic. Realizing dyslexia doesn't mean you're dumb, it just means it's something that you have. And so I was assessed to be not just dyslexic, but severely dyslexic. And that led me on to a path thinking, okay, why did I succeed? Because people like me weren't supposed to. With my background, I grew up in, really from poverty background. I was a single mother, my mother was a single mother. My brother was a complete juvenile delinquent with rubbish. It was just all the factors against me. Yet I was standing here and I was very successful. Even at that age. So then that's when I went in, and I have to say again, fate stepped in. I was looking at ways to improve my mind mapping, with speed reading, all those books. And I was actually looking for a book by Tony Buzan on speed reading or mind mapping, one of his books, when I found a book by Tony Robbins. And I didn't know this world existed. Like, I had never met anybody who did personal development. I was completely oblivious to this world. And Tony Robbins, who I don't follow so much now, I think he's an amazing person, but he's really anymore. He's the one who introduced me to this whole area of personal development. And again, like I said, I went on this journey and I became a personal development junkie, as you would call it, every book you could under the sun. I read from, Benjamin Franklin to the Troward Papers to you name it, I've read it. That's the way I have. And I tell you off the camera that my mentors tend to be the late 19th and early 20th century people rather than the modern mentors. But that's where the love began. That's where the passion ignited in me about personal development, about learning, about psychology of success. And I set myself a target to become a millionaire before 30. I hit it at 27. So for someone who was actually who grew up on what we'd say, I'm not sure, we call it, in council estate, really poor area. I don't know what that's for you guys, downtown or I don't know, rough area. Somebody who goes on becomes a self-made millionaire by the time she's 27. So I've had a path, but then that life had a different plan for me at the similar age. When I did go down this entrepreneurial path, I got married and that's another story for another time. I ended up being at one point, just not that long ago, I left my job to become a stay-at-home mom because that's another story. But I did agree to this aspect, and I was a stay-at-home mom. So the point when I left my second husband, by the way, I was completely stuck at home. I was completely financially dependent on my husband at the time. We had a decent lifestyle. We had a lifestyle, so I didn't. It wasn't like he didn't allow me to work and made me, with nothing. We had both our kids in private school. We had good nights because we had a nice lifestyle. But when he cheated on me, it's when I left him because he cheated on me. When he at that point, I realized the financial sword he had on my head. Because he actually told me he didn't want to leave me, he wasn't going to leave me because he wanted to keep both me and her. And he could say that because I was totally financially dependent on him at that time. So anyway, long story short, I told him to, that's not happening, dude. And I left him and I divorced him. And I divorced him myself, by the way. I couldn't even afford a lawyer at that time.
So you were your own?
I was my own lawyer, right? So I divorced him very quickly, actually. I probably did a better job than probably anybody else outside could do it, even though I'm not into family law. I was practicing banking, but anyway, I was able to do it and I did it quite quickly. So it's at that point when I left him and I had to go back to law. Now, might be, just keep in mind, I had been out of law for about 9 years by then. And I was thinking, okay, I would have to go back and I have to start from scratch and whatever else. And I knew I could build myself up because I'm very competent, but did I want to? And I had 2 young children at the time. So I actually stepped back, and this is something I talk about quite often, take a step back and think, what do you have passion for? What are your skill sets? And that's exactly what I did. I stepped back and I thought, okay, what am I good at? And by then I had done about 20 years of personal development. I had done intuitive life coaching. I did everything under the sun, just for personal reasons, by the way. I had no intention of coaching. There's never any idea of coaching in here. But I thought, I'm very good at this. And I'd already been doing pro bono stuff quite a bit up until that time. And so because I had been doing pro bono and I got very good results for people, but I wasn't charging anything. I thought, what if I did this full time? What if I took this to the next level? And that's where Gull Khan Money Mindset was born.
Wow, what a story. There's so many things that I want to, that was an amazing story, quite a trajectory. There's so many things I want to ask about. I'm going to start at sort of the beginning of something that you said that really stuck out at me. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being so vulnerable about and honest about your trajectory. One thing that stuck out right away is when you said about being diagnosed with dyslexia at 19. I'm curious. So you were this high achiever. You've done all these amazing things. How do you think things would have been different if you would have been diagnosed earlier? Would it have helped you, or would it have hurt you?
I think it would have hurt me. Honestly, I think it would have hurt me. Reason why? Because when you put these labels on yourselves, you don't actually aim high. So the fact that I didn't know I was dyslexic meant I had no option but to study. So now looking back, it makes sense. Like I couldn't read a full sentence at the age of 11, right? Now it makes sense why. But at the time, I didn't know. I just blamed on the fact that we kept moving homes and blah, 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 and whatever else. I didn't know what a good student was because people around me weren't that good students. Remember the environment I'm coming from. Right? Mm-hmm. I had nobody else who was very, very smart. So I had nothing to compare to. I was a smart person there. So when I thought I had to spend 2 hours reading a chapter, I only realized later on that people could read it in half an hour. I had no clue until then. My brother wasn't a good student either. He was too busy being a delinquent. So I had no comparison for it. So in my mind, I was smart. And my mother, now here's the tip. I don't know if my mother knew I had difficulties reading or not. If she did, she hit it very well, because regardless of my grade, regardless of what turned out from the school, she would tell me, you're smart, you're super smart, you can do this, you can do this. I never heard her tell me I couldn't. And I remember being, by the way, I was naturally good at maths, being, Asian, whatever, and my kids are as well. If I got less than 95% or 90%, I would be told, why didn't you get 100, right? I would always get 90% plus on maths. And even then, she was like, well, you should be getting 100. You haven't got 100, but you can get 100. I had a parent who completely believed in me, my ability. I don't know whether she knew about whether I had anything issues. So I worked really hard. So I think if I was given that label of dyslexia early, I would have had an excuse to not study, excuse to not understand, excuse not to spend those few hours. And for a child, now looking back, because I was so self-motivated to succeed, I remember I would wake up at 4 in. This is for GCSEs, by the way. So this is when I'm 14, 15. I would wake up at 4 in. I would go to bed at 10. And in between, I'll be studying for 25 minutes, 10-minute break, 25 minutes, 10-minute break. And I worked this out myself as a child that I could do this. And the older I got, my grades got better. And I was thinking, oh, I'm getting smarter, not realizing you build more bridges when you're dyslexic. As you get older, you build more bridges, and therefore you are able to get better grades because your writing improves. I didn't know this at the time. I just thought I'm getting smarter. So, but I would work, and if I had dyslexia label, that would give me an escapism, thinking, well, I do have this issue. I can't really read, or I can't. And I'm not sure if I would, but there's a possibility I could. So I'm very grateful for how Devices Energy. I really believe everything was planned in the right divine order and the right divine planning. I really believe in that. So everything that happened in my life, good and bad alike, I'm absolutely grateful for, because it's got me to where I am. And if I change even one thing, the trajectory would be completely different, and I would be somewhere else. And I love it where I am, and I love who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh. And I completely agree with the labels. It totally resonates. And that's one thing we talk about a lot here is be careful about, excuse me, be careful about the labels you too closely identify with, because then you'll live into them. We were just talking about this on the interview yesterday, where you'll have someone sitting there go, well, I'm an introvert, which means, and then ... fill in the story that goes along with being an introvert. So I'm bad at sales. I'm not good at talking with people. I'm not good at, sitting down with my employees or coaching them and things like that. And I'm like, be careful. Or one of my pet peeves is I'm a perfectionist. No, perfectionism is something you do. It's not something you are. It's not like you were born and, oh my God, I'm a perfectionist. What are we going to do with her? No. This is something we do, and this is something we can undo. But the problem with those labels is they can be very important, because then they can help us learn adaptive skills. Like some of those bridges that you work so hard to build, they could have potentially been given to you. Okay, well, if you look at it this way, if you read this way, if you do this thing, that's one way. And there's absolute truth to that. But we've got to be so very careful that it doesn't become our excuse. It can become our reason, but not our excuse.
Agreed.
I love that. So where did all this drive come from? So I hear what you're saying, like the deck is stacked against me. I heard raised by a single mom, brothers really struggling, came from the wrong side of town or the wrong side of the tracks. Things are stacked against you. Was it your mom constantly, reinforcing, hey, you're smart, hey, you're capable so much more? Was this an internal fire in you? Where did all that come from at such a young age?
Great question. So again, something that happened to me in my childhood. So my father is a self-made, would be classified as self-made billionaire in this day and age if he still had the same amount of money. My mother and father actually, my father left. I was born in Manchester, UK, but my father left UK because he had a daughter. He didn't want your daughter to grow up in the Western world. God forbid. God forbid, right? So we moved to Pakistan, and my father, guess what? This is the irony. My father there remarried, thinking he wanted a new wife. Okay, so whatever. My mother left him. And so this is another story for another time, but how I manifested my mother's exact life actually in my mid-30s. So my mother in her mid-30s, she had a husband who had remarried, but he was very, very wealthy. She was totally financially dependent on him. And she left him. Keep in mind, this is in the 80s and in Pakistan, not heard of, not a done deal, especially when it comes to someone with a lot of money, right? So she picked up kids up and left. And he, at that time, I think he threatened her that he would take the kids. So she goes, okay, khalas, I'm leaving Pakistan. She left Pakistan and came to UK. And we didn't go to Manchester. Hence we came to London. So I grew up in London. Now, I was 5 at the time, and I don't remember much. I just remember the kind of lifestyle we had, the chauffeurs, the cars, the house, the whatever. And I remember even thinking that time as a child, I don't need my father's money. I can make that for mommy. I had this drive that I was going to get all of that back for my mother. It wasn't for me, it was for my mother. So from a young child age, I thought, don't worry, mommy, I will look after you. Because my brother went down because my brother couldn't, I think this is where my brother went down the wrong trajectory, you can say at the time. He got himself together afterwards, but at that time he did. He couldn't understand how we went from riches to rags, and literally to rags, because my father even sold a home in the UK, so they wouldn't be able to, we have no place to come back to. So we literally started from scratch onwards, and it was horrible. Wow. Looking back, but my father and refused to pay. My father didn't pay a penny towards our upbringing, so even though he could afford to, he didn't. So my brother was pretty down in the dumps. So I was thinking as a child, I'm going to help mommy. I'm going to look after you, mommy. I'm going to do this for you, mommy. And I did eventually, but unfortunately she passed away before I could do all that for her. She died when I was 21. But the drive started then. And now looking back, I think it was also maybe genetics, because my father was as driven. As I got to know my father later, I realized that he was a self-made man and he had the same drive. And my drive is very similar. It's not similar, it's probably greater than my dad's, but it does come from him. So maybe something in my blood too from my father unknowingly. But I knew as a child the drive to succeed, the drive to study, because no one told me to study. I was just a very, very one of those really, really eager students who studied really hard. It came that I thought my way out was, if I study really hard, and I remember I wanted to become a doctor at the time. If I study really hard and become a doctor, then I could mom and give her everything she needs. That was my drive.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm thinking what you were saying about the drive was so similar to your father's. I don't know if it's so much genetics or just he showed you what was possible. Even if what he did with it wasn't necessarily noble, he sold a house and things like that. So he maybe didn't do well with money, but he did show you that that it's possible. If he's self-made and he amassed so much wealth in today's numbers, it would be billions, then that is an option, that is something that's not just reserved for other people. It's reserved for your family as well.
Yeah, I suppose that's a very, very strong reference point that I did have. If my father can do it, I can do it. So the idea that it's not possible, it's difficult, people like us don't succeed, that was never in there. Plus, I have to give credit to my mother. She always said, you can do anything, you can do whatever. So according to my mother, I was the smartest and the most beautiful woman in the girl in the world. I know all parents think that, but my mother did, and she actually believed it, and she told me, and she reinforced that again and again and again. But until, I absolutely believed, not necessarily the prettiest, but I really do think I was the smartest person I knew. And it got to the point where most of the times when I walk into rooms, I am the smartest person in the room, including my family. Not because they're not any smarter, it's just I work that much more. It's the work ethics that I think that contributes to it, rather than me having genetically being, primed towards it. But my mother planted the seed in my head to be, to work extra hard. And I remember hearing this quote from Will Smith on one of the interviews he did a while ago, where he said, he may not have the most talent, but if he gets on a treadmill and there's somebody else on the treadmill, he's either going to win or die on the treadmill. He's not going to get off. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that's me. Whenever I do, I may not have the best talent, I may not have the best ability, but whenever I compete, there's no one who's going to be working as harder than me. There's no one who can work more than me, who can put more input than me. Yes, I may die, but I'll die on the treadmill. Otherwise, you're not getting me off there. That is a difference. And I think that was instilled by my mother, that you can do it. You just have to work hard. You can do it. You can just work hard.
Yeah, I know the same quote. I know the same story, and I love it. And I wrote it down when he first said it too, because it totally resonated with me. I was in a workshop last week with a company, Brand Builders Group, that I work with, and the speaker said something that I loved. He said, I'd rather need to outwork someone than outwit someone. He said, if I have to outwit someone, he's like, I don't know that I'll win. But if it comes to a match of outworking, he said, I know I'll always win. And I was like, oh, that's so good. It reminds me of that too.
Yeah.
Now,
absolutely.
did you bump up against, so your mother really encouraged you and she put it in your head, you're the smartest person. She's really elevated you, but then the financial gain that you went kind of mirrored your father's path. Did you bump up against any gender stereotypes with that about,
yeah.
I was going to say,
I mean,
you got to talk about that because you followed in your father's financial footsteps, at least.
So, I mean, in my family, I would say this, okay, in my extended family, not my immediate family, I have to say, not my immediate family, not my mother and my brother. My mother never got to see any of that because, like I said, she passed away when I was 21. So she never got to see any of my success in terms of, she didn't see me graduate, to be honest. I graduated at 22.
Okay.
So
we lost you there. Can you start again? You said not in your immediate family, but.
So not in my immediate family, but extended family. I was saying that my mother never got to see any of my successes. Unfortunately, she passed away when I was 21, so she didn't get to see me graduate, unfortunately. But she died very young. But so I faced that with my extended family. I come from a traditional Muslim family, and my uncles, whatever. I think my immediate uncle, my dad's brother, who just recently passed away, he saw me as amazing, as something. But then I think he was a one-off. Everybody else, if I was a boy and I was exactly the same, honestly, they think I'm the hero of the family. I would be. Because I'm a girl and I have a mouth and I have a brain and I have a mind, I was always the black sheep of the family. Mm-hmm. So it was always, they never celebrated my success. They never actually acknowledged who I am. They just let me be, okay, let her be what she is, whatever. So that's what I did find. Even now, to this day, it's funny how I'm the money person in the family. So I probably earn more than most people. I do. I generally do. And I know about cryptos, investments. And these men will talk amongst themselves and they'll have these discussions about blah, blah. And the one person who probably has some knowledge and idea about it is me. And they won't talk. Nobody talks to me about it. I have to say, one of my cousins has realized, Baji, they call him Baji. She knows, and he'll come and talk. But it's just, from that 100 men, it's like one cousin, right, who recognized, okay, she has some idea. Most of them will talk amongst each other, not realizing, they do actually realize it, but they won't talk to me because I'm a girl. And I find that so hilarious. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I do get that. But then does it really matter? I don't mind being the black sheep family. I don't mind earning, and I earn a lot. And they can see it from my lifestyle, who I am, where I've come from, what I've done. So good, it's all well and good. But men in my family don't want to acknowledge me, my success, or who I am. But I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have to overcome that? I mean, were you always this confident? Did you, and we'll actually get into your work here in a second, but for a lot of people, when those who are close to them are kind of feeding that sort of negativity, like, well, you can't do this because you're female, or you can't do this because, you have to start with money to make money, all the kind of, the common things that people say that can become our own affirmations. They can become our own mantras that are negative. Did you have to overcome them, or did you just kind of come out of the gate and go, nope, I'm not listening to any of that. I got my own vision and I'm straight ahead?
I think that's a great question. I think this is where I have to thank my mom for, because my mom didn't follow the traditional route. She left her husband, which wasn't the done deal. He said he don't divorce her. She goes, okay, fine. I'm not going to get married anyway. So keep the divorce. I don't want a divorce anyway. She came, did it by herself. She was, I don't give a hoot about what the world says. And she just went about her life. I had that example in front of me. So, when it comes to, my brother did tell it, I can't go out. I can't do this. I remember my brother telling me at 16, if he ever finds out I'm dating someone, he's going to break my legs. I tell you not, it was funny. He was taking me to the first day to college. We have from 16 to 18, we go colleges here. So we went to college to do my A-levels, and first day of college, and my friend was with me in the car and he was dropping us. He was telling me how if he ever finds out I'm dating someone, he's going to break my legs, right? Okay. So my brother did have these things for me, but I never really paid attention because I wasn't doing those things anyway. I was too focused on my studies to do anything they didn't want me to do. Mm-hmm. Now, when it came to work, I mean, like I said, my mom passed away at 21. So until then, when my mother was alive, my brother didn't say anything. After my mom passed away, my brother saw me working. He never saw me doing anything wrong. So making money and doing whatever, he wasn't objecting to it. And then I think later on now I think the dynamics have changed. He's sort of worked out that, he respects my, wishes. He knows the kind of character I am. So I don't get any issues from my brother as such. But I did have this control aspect to me when I was younger, but I never really felt it because he was too, don't drink, which I won't drink. Don't smoke, I don't smoke. Don't go out, I wasn't dating anybody. I was too focused on study, so it didn't really impact me. Mm-hmm. Now I've got to the level where because I realized I can be my own person and make my own path in life. I don't care what other people think, and then I'm able to give that sort of upbringing to my children.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So two questions I've got to ask about that. So one's an observation really is what's interesting to me is that you're framing, hey, my mom left my father and it was against all odds. Like she left Pakistan, she moved to the UK. He took all the money, sold the house. I mean, it was rags to riches kind of situation. And what's interesting is you're framing this as, hey, this taught me what was possible, that this was this amazing example in your life about bucking the system and what is possible and going against the grain. At the moment, no doubt what she was being told was, you're going to destroy your kids by doing this. You're totally going to ruin their lives, their future. No doubt she was under intense pressure to stay with your father, to stay in what sounds like the lap of luxury in Pakistan financially, even if she wasn't necessarily happily married. But hey, you've got a good thing going on. Don't upset the apple cart. And not only that, but you're going to hurt your kids by doing it. And here you are years later using that same situation as an example of teaching you what was possible. It's just amazing how that worked out.
It is, and it depends on. I always say it's your way of looking at things. How do you view it? Mm-hmm. I really do believe, and I think this is where I really, again, something I learned from her. It's better for you to be alone than to be in a hopeless marriage, even for the sake of your kids. I really believe if she stayed in that marriage, she would be miserable. She'd probably die a lot earlier, and I don't think I would have the character that I have, and I wouldn't be where I am. So, in all honesty, but in my own marriage as well, I took that on board, that it's better for my kids to have me sane and happy than to be in a miserable marriage. Because I was in the exact same situation, by the way. In my second marriage, I was in the exact same situation. The person I married, he was full in financial control. Because of him, I had to pull my kids out of the private schools. They had life-changing experiences as well. I did it, and I moved ahead, and I was, but it worked out in my favor. And I had people telling me again, don't do it. And I had my own cousins, my male cousins, my really from the extended family, the same ones. I had the call telling me, I'm a fool and I shouldn't leave him. And men make mistakes, so what? And, she's a time being and she'll go, I mean, seriously? Like, seriously? And obviously I told them to, I'm not interested in, and not in sort of polite words, of course. Sure. But I had people telling me the exact same thing. Yeah. 30 years later, the exact same thing. And I thought, you know what? No. And in hindsight, it was the right decision for her. It was the right decision for me. But you know what, April, you can take any situation. You can either use it for your benefit or you can be a victim because of it. I choose whatever happened in my life to empower me rather than to disempower me. I go into, this helped me by doing X, Y, and Z. As Bob Proctor always talks about, every cloud has a silver lining, whether you choose to see it or not. I find that every situation has two sides of the coin. Mm-hmm. There's as bad as it looks, it has equal weight in positive aspect to it. And you have to focus on the positive aspect to see what can you learn, how can you move on, and how can it support you? Because divine energy doesn't work in your against you. It gives you situations, and something can be really, really bad. At the same time, if you flip it, it has equal benefit to it. It's your perspective on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of this book by Doyle. She wrote a book called Untamed. I don't know if you've read it. It's really good. I highly recommend it. It's very interesting. But in there, she kind of has this aha moment where she's brushing her daughter's hair and she's unhappily married. Happy enough, I will say, but not really fulfilled. And then she ends up later ending the marriage and going on and finding the love of her life. But she's brushing her daughter's hair, and her daughter is saying, "Oh, do my hair the way that you do your hair." And she wants her to be done the same way. And she said, I'm noticing how my daughter wants to do everything that I'm doing. And she has this aha moment where she said, I'm staying in this marriage for my daughter, but would I want this marriage for my daughter?
No.
And it was powerful. And that's when she's like, oh, wait a second. What am I modeling? This isn't what I want her to go and recreate. And that was the beginning of the end for her. And I just thought that was such a powerful line in that book. I'll have to send it to you. It's a good book.
I agree. I mean, that's my scenario, that I didn't want my kids, either of them, by the way, my son or my daughter, to remain in an unhappy situation just for the sake of kids. That's torture. And then the guilt we will put on my kids. Oh, I stayed in this marriage for you, for the sake of you. What the hell? No. Yeah. Right? So it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to that same concept I was talking about. This is one of the speeches that I do is essentially turn your excuse into a reason.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is your kids can be either the excuse that you stay in an unhappy marriage, or they can be the reason that you end an unhappy marriage and go out and find. So explain to me how this happened. So I got on, and then I want to get into our actual questions, but I'm just trying to imagine this in my mind. So you've been wildly successful. You get to your first million at 27 instead of 30. Mm-hmm. So you're ahead of the bar. Like you're hitting all the marks. And then you end up in a situation where you are then financially dependent on a husband. You know, use an analogy if he's got the sword over your head or sword over your neck. How does that happen? I mean, you've done, if you will, everything right. How do you end up in a situation and just to be clear, you know, I'm in no way saying it was your fault what happened and how the marriage resolved, but how do you end up there?
Well, okay, that's great. I think there is a story behind it, but I sort of skimmed over it because of the lack of time. So I'll go into it. I can give you the logical reasons behind it now, but I think I was destined to, and there's a reason for that too. Okay. And so what happened was before I became a millionaire, I actually had an arranged marriage. Why did I have an arranged marriage? Because I had heartbroken. I never, keep in mind, someone who never dated, never anything, finally fell in love with who thought was my love of my life, had my heart broken. I left him, by the way, and the hindsight, it was the right decision. I left him, but the guilt and the thing took over, and I was completely shattered in terms of my own choices, really with regards to men. So I let my father choose a husband for me. Well, looking back in hindsight, it's a wrong thing to do, obviously. But at the time, I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I'm actually doing a podcast on that to explain why happening, you know, what if it's called the what if syndrome. Anyway. But the point was, I was really, in my own personal life, I was very shattered, and I didn't trust my judgment with regards to men. So at that time, I was working as banking finance lawyer. So my father said, do you want to get married? I'm like, there's someone I want to get married. He goes, shall I choose someone for you? He said, go ahead. No, yeah, go on, whatever. He picked someone, and on paper, in all honesty, my father did what I think on paper, all good job. It was another lawyer, somebody who'd been to, you know, a really good grade, somebody who they know the family wages, whatever. All ticked all the boxes, you know, for the criteria for the guy. What they didn't do, which I think was stupid, because I think arranged marriages can work, but if your parents know who you are. In hindsight, my father didn't know me. I had only started speaking to him a couple of years prior to that. He had no idea who I was as a person. So for him to choose a person for me, if he doesn't know me, how can he choose someone for me? If a mother chose, you know, she'd be like, she chose someone, it's understandable. Even my brother, it's understandable because they know what I'm like. So again, it's not his fault. It's just the way the situation was. So no blame to anybody. So this person who he chose ended up, I'm not sure. I don't think he's assessed, but I'm sure he's bipolar as well. He's got some issues. Anyway, this person's got some issues, bless him. And I forgive him too. And, you know, he's a nice enough guy when he's being nice. And he's the father of my daughter, so I will never disrespect him. He's a very nice guy. He wasn't to me. And so with him, that's when I was still working, and he actually didn't want to be working anymore. He decided when we got married that he wanted to be a house husband, which, by the way, I don't care. And I'm like, dude, that's fine. You know, you look after the kids and I can go out. It wasn't a problem. That was okay. But later on, just very early in our marriage, I began to realize he was, you know, like I said, there's two sides to him, and he became a abuser. And it started off very slow. So this is the point. It started off very slowly from verbal abuse, and it got to physical abuse. Keep that in mind as well. It's not something happened overnight. It just became, but it was abusive from, I think, the week 2 onwards. I was like, what have I got myself into? Oh my days. But then I thought, this is arranged marriage, give it time, work it out. Anyway, long story short, 6 months down the line, I was looking to leave him, but I was the main breadwinner at the time. Keep that in mind as well. And so, then I found out I was pregnant. And I thought, okay. Then I thought maybe this will work out, whatever. When I was about to leave him, I found I was expecting my daughter. So I stayed in the marriage. And then, and I have to say, during my pregnancy, he wasn't bad. He changed himself. He got better. That's when we made we bought the portfolio. I had the money that I had, we invested. Now, because I actually bought my properties with him, because I was the main breadwinner, I was the only person who had mortgage, and he purposely chose to keep his name off the mortgage. Now, being a lawyer, he knew that it doesn't matter if he's on the mortgage or not, he will have access to 50% of my assets anyway, because we're married, right? So he wasn't really bothered about that. But he didn't want the responsibility for it. So all the mortgages, everything was under my name. And we bought the portfolio, and we became property millionaires, and I became a millionaire and so forth. And that all worked out well. So he was happy with that. However, what he tried doing was, which I'm looking back in hindsight, I didn't know at the time, he was trying to make sure that he retained power and control over me through physical brute force. Now, once the baby was born, the abuse came back, but literally almost within days. And then it was where the physical abuse started. Now, I think the one incident which was the end of it, which ended the whole thing, was beginning of the end, was I remember my daughter was 8 weeks old. He had, and by the way, so I'm about 5'6", and I'm pretty bigger now, but I was very petite at the time. This gentleman, he's about 6 foot tall, very big and wide, so like twice my weight, and he had me pinned across on top of the stairs, literally, and just whatever he was doing. I don't know what happened, what slipped, what snapped, but I had the baby in my hand, so I couldn't push him either. Remember, the girl was only 8 weeks old. My baby was only 8 weeks old. So I didn't even push him off. I just had to just take it. When he let go of me, I picked up the phone. I don't know what made me. I picked the phone and called the police. So the police came. Now, keep in mind that he was very clever. He was a criminal lawyer, by the way, so he knew what to do. So he knew how to say it. So I didn't have any bruises as such on my face, but it was, it was just, it's difficult to explain, the way he was. So I was in pain, but without any bruise to show for it, if that makes any sense. Okay. However, the police came and they saw the state I was in, so that he was arrested and was taken. That was the end of that matter. Okay. And then my family, by the way, my family still stepped in, my dad and my uncle, everything, and they tried to resolve it. We tried to make this work. Okay. Anyway, that did happen. I even went to Manchester trying to resolve it, whatever, because he's from Manchester. It didn't work out. And that's when I put my foot down. So I'm not moving to Manchester. I'm not doing this. I've got my property here. What he wanted to do is, his father wanted me to sell all my properties and give the money to them. That was one of the things as well. Put the money and go and buy a home. Well, the pretext was we would buy a home together in Manchester. Why would I sell my portfolio? It doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. But anyway. So this is where, so anyway, long story short, in the end, my uncle is actually the uncle who passed away. He's the one, he turned us, he goes, just, Sophia, just do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to tell you to divorce him, but you do whatever's right for you, and I'm behind you. Not my father, my uncle said, do it. Not my brother, it was that uncle who passed away. He said, just do it. I'm with you. Do whatever you want. And he's the one who actually then, that divorce I filed, and I did it myself too. But anyway, that divorce was done, and he actually sued me for alimony and whatever. But we'd be married. Luckily, we'd been married for less than 2 years, so the rules are different, and we're able to work away with us. So he didn't get anything from me. Now, when my second marriage came into the picture, and it was somebody who'd known me for years and was in love with me for 16 years, by the way, before I even got married, the personalities were completely opposite. This person I married was an educated person from here who went to LSE, one of the top universities in the UK, was a lawyer like me. And this person was a complete opposite. Someone who's from Pakistan with low, he was working as an assistant manager at Burger King, didn't have much to go for his name, but he apparently had been loving me for all these years. So I agreed to it. So I agreed, and my father wasn't really happy, but I said, look, this person's whatever. I said, he'll love me, respect me, I'll marry him. I married him, and unfortunately, that marriage was okay, but it started going down the hill when he started making money. So I supported him. He actually worked really hard, and he went on to become, from someone who's earning like £1,200 a month to setting up a business. And eventually his business was making 50, 60 grand a month. That's the level he got to. So driving Range Rovers and whatever. So the more money he made, the more I think he lost his ways, I have to say. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's the father of my son. So again, all respect to him. I would never disrespect him again. He's a nice guy again, usually. But he wasn't nice to me. But as his business took off, he put a criteria down to me. He goes that he didn't want me to work. He said, do whatever you want from home, but if it's me, I want to be making for you. And I thought at the time he was, because he heard the story and he said, I want you to, just look after the kids. We're going to have more kids, blah, blah, blah. So once his business started taking off, he stopped me from working. And I had been through so much hell because of trying to be in the breadwinner. I thought, okay, fine, you know what? You can wear the pants. If that's what you guys think that, earning puts the pants on, you take the pants. I don't care about the damn pants, right? In hindsight, I could have made a different decision, but anyway, I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. And he did go on to provide me the lifestyle. My criteria was, if my kids can go to private school, I won't work. And he did. Both my kids went to private school. We had nice cars, nice house, da-da-da. It wasn't, finances weren't an issue. But the more money he made, the more abusive he became. Now, that marriage, I think, was more abusive, because this is where, not physical, mental abuse started. His biggest issue with me was because I'm too educated. I'm too smart. I think I'm too beautiful. I think I'm too intelligent. I think I'm too this. So he made me believe at the age of my 30s, which, but keep in mind, this is something my father did to my mother. In my mid 30s, I believed I was fat, I was ugly, I was stupid, and women should, that my biggest flaw was the fact that I was too educated. Maybe I make other people feel bad about themselves. I'm too arrogant about my education. Now, looking back in hindsight, someone like me can never be arrogant. I'm not arrogant about my education. I'm proud of it because I worked so hard for it. But I'm not. But this is the thing. He was I think he might be borderline narcissist. So he did that to me, and he destroyed my confidence in me, who I am, whatever. And it just got to the point where I was totally, not just financially, but emotionally, everything depended on him. I remember my cousin at the time thinking, "Am I okay? Do I look okay? Do you think I look fine?" And she said, "Go, you're fine. What are you stressing about?" And I was stressing because I had just put on clothes and I was getting reassurance from another person. Do I look okay? I mean, do I look okay? Not normally you would ask your girlfriend or your cousin, like, "What do you think? Is that okay?" It was like really trying to get the reassurance, which is not me. Okay, but that's the person I'd become. Like, "Am I okay? This is okay. Do you think this is okay?" And she's like, "Calm down, woman. What's wrong with you?" And she's the first person to recognize what was going on. But then that's where I ended up. It's not an easy journey. It was difficult for me to get there. But it took, from being really financially independent to being in that situation, it took a span of, I would say, about 8 years. But it did take its toll on me, and it took me a long time to come back out.
Yeah, I bet. It's hard to imagine from the story of such an empowered person that is so brilliant, that has so much education, that has so much confidence, how you could get there. I think it's it provides it's a great kind of warning story of we need to stay aware that even with confidence, even with intelligence, even with money, if we're not managing, you referenced Tony Robbins earlier, so I'll use a quote from him as well, but you have to stand you need to stand guard to the door of your mind. Yeah. And if we don't, it's amazing what can come through, and how our confidence can be eroded, our financial picture can be eroded, all of this, all these degrees on the wall, if we're not careful, that can all be eroded. If we're not watching that, and the people around us, we have to really be aware of the influence that they're having over us, because I mean, man, what a story. I mean, from sort of the pinnacle of success to, okay, well, he's going to be the breadwinner, so I'm going to stay at home for a while and we're going to test that out and see how it goes, to, okay, now he's making a ton of money and his priorities change and how he approaches me changes. And someone who initially professed their undying love to you ends up being a person who completely erodes your confidence.
Completely. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm part of another project called International Women Empowerment Events. That's where I co-founded that with someone called Hera Early. So that's completely separate from my business. It's a pro bono thing that we do. Mm-hmm. This is the reason why I want to highlight this to people, that someone like me, who is a barrister for no less, okay, so I'm one of the most confident people that you'll meet on the road. Someone like that could completely lose all her confidence in her ability to speak. I literally was I wouldn't even speak in the golden rooms. I wouldn't even speak. Someone who like that, if that can happen to someone like this, it can happen to anyone. And not to stand in shame, and to actually go out and seek help, because it's very easy for people to come out and say, "Well, why did you let him do that? Why didn't you get help?" If you're in that situation, you don't even know you're in that situation. To be able to seek help, you have to recognize where you are. This is where I really am grateful to my cousin, who kept on my back since, I left him in 2016 when I caught him in his affair. In 2014, the end of it, in 2015, she was on my back. Leave him. I'm like, why? There's something wrong with him. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's not him. He's nice. It's my fault. The typical idea. So this is why I'm so passionate about empowering not just women. I think some men get into this work, because I can see women. This happened to my brother on the reverse, because I can't blame men, because women do this too. I've seen it happen in my brother's life. The complete opposite, same thing happened the other way around, where his wife took away all his confidence completely, and he was suicidal. Right. And so see this, so and not to empower just women, but men too, to realize if this happens, you need to first recognize it and then get help. But then that's another conversation for another time.
Yeah. And to that same point is it's not binary. It's not the switch that comes on and goes, oh, well, they're completely different like this. It's the whole frog in the pot analogy where, you put a frog in the pot and if it's boiling water, the frog jumps out right away. But if you put a frog in, I've never actually tested this out. This is a common story that people use in personal development. I don't know if this is actually true because I've never put a frog in a pot of boiling water. But the idea is that if you put them in just a regular water and then you slowly turn the temperature up, the frog won't jump out and you can get the point to the water is boiling and the frog never jumped out. So the idea is that we as humans are the same way. And that if you just slowly turn up the temperature, you slowly turn up the manipulation or the eroding of confidence or the control, that they won't realize it until they're so far down that road that they're like, I don't even recognize myself anymore. And I think of us as like, we can be kind of like paper dolls and we keep cutting off the edges to fit into this mold or their vision of us, our vision of us, our family's vision of us. And eventually we don't realize we've cut so much that what's left of that paper doll doesn't look anything like us anymore.
No. I'm going to share something else, which I don't share very often, because I have shared in my podcast, I can be open about it. So I'll get to the point that it's at a certain point in our marriage, he started pulling weight, so we weren't sleeping together at all. And the problem was apparently that he was impotent, and he blamed it on black magic. In our culture, there's such thing as black magic. He made me believe that someone had done black magic on me. Now, keep in mind, this is a lawyer here in UK who believed into lies so much that I actually believed this to be true, that he had black magic being done onto him that made him impotent because of me. So I was sitting there on the floor praying to God to help him and feeling sorry. I think maybe that's the reason why I took so much abuse as well, because I felt guilty that because of me, this poor man has become impotent because of the black magic that was done on me. And I later on found out he'd been sleeping around all these years. so
your prayers have been answered. Oh my gosh, what a story. I mean, this is like in a movie. When is the movie coming out, Gull? I mean, this is just amazing.
Yeah, I need to write a memoir, don't I?
You do need a memoir. Oh my gosh. There's like different, I see 2 or 3 sections emerging of like the before, the middle, and the after. I mean, what a story. I love that you use your story to share, hey, if this could happen to someone like me with all this education, with all this experience, with all this confidence, then it can happen to anyone. And when I just keep trying to imagine of how you get out of that though. Because what I heard is, and the marriage eventually ended, not because you going, oh my gosh, what has happened? It's more of, hey, there's an affair that's probably very visible. And that's why it ended. It sounded like, how does that transition happen?
Okay, so what I just told you is this is something that was ingrained into me and I absolutely believed it. So putting this in context, so my son was at that time 5. And since my son was conceived, so 6 years prior to that, we hadn't had any physical contact. We just wasn't, okay, because he was ill, okay? So I found out he's having an affair in March of 2016, and there was some dirty, sex chatting and other rubbish. And by then, keep in mind, he'd been very, very abusive. So the abuse wasn't bothering me. It was the fact that he had an affair which bothered me, okay? Initially, looking back in hindsight, I thought, what the hell? That was just the tip of the iceberg. What about everything else? But anyway, you need a reason to get out, and that was my reason. So when I found out about his affair, again, look at the extent of the manipulation. He told me it was just sex chatting. It wasn't a real act, and because he can't do anything anyway. Remember, I'm ill. So I believe that too, by the way. So, but then the fact that he still did that, for me, that was cheating. That was an offense. That's why he moved out. So he moved out the house to work on our marriage. For the few months after that, we were working on our marriage. Now, keep in mind, the manipulation and my family and everything else got to such a level. He moved out in March of 2016. By June, I was telling him to move back. Move back, let's work on a marriage. Move back, let's work on a marriage. I was asking him to move back. He was saying no. He said, no, I need some time. I need to get my head around this and whatever. I need some time. I need to work on my business, blah, 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 blah. And I remember the exact date. So I took my kids out to the theme park here, I don't know, Chessington or something. And I remember coming back and I was actually happy that day. And I am quite intuitive. Unfortunately, my intuition wasn't working very well. I wasn't listening to it during my marriage. But anyway, I remember going to sleep on that night. No, it was the night before 31st of the night before 31st of August, because 31st was a bank holiday. I remember the exact day. So the night before, I actually remember praying to God and say, "Look, God, I don't know what to do. Give me a way out." It wasn't from a point of desperation. It was like, just give me a way out. I was really, really happy. I was very, really happy that day with my children. We had a really good time and my kids were happy and I was happy and content. So content is the word. Maybe not happy, but content is the word. And I asked for guidance. Just tell me what to do. I'm sick of where I am. I need to know how I can make it work. If not, then we need to end it. Then tell me that as well. I remember saying this prayer before going to sleep in the morning. Now, here's a freaky part. The very next, well, not necessarily in my world, but if you will, if you're from the outside, in the morning, I normally wake up, so I'm early, but I normally wake up at 6, 7 o'clock. That day, I woke up at 9 o'clock, which is very late for me. And I woke up and I had this, as soon as I woke up, I heard this really strong voice in my head, go to where he lives. Now, he'd given me his address because for some reason, I can't remember now. Normally, I didn't know where he was living, but he'd given me his address at that time. And I heard my voice in my head, go to where he's living. And I said, and he was about an hour and 50 an hour and a half away. It was in a different town. We're in London. He was in Luton. And I remember arguing back with the voice. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I just got up and blah, blah, blah. As you do, obviously. But anyway, I was arguing back with this voice in my head. And I said, no, get up. You have to be there before 10:30. And that's all I heard. And I don't know what, I tell you, April, I don't know what happened. I pulled off the duvet. I jumped out the bed. I picked up yesterday's clothes, no brush, no nothing. I grabbed kids who were still in the PJs, by the way. I remember there's a 5-year-old and 9-year-old, they're still kiddies who'd been up for a while now, waiting for mommy to get up and give them breakfast. I gave them milkshakes in their hands, grabbed them in the car, and I zoomed out, okay? Now, I don't know where I was going, why I was going there, but I did. I had put in the sat nav, I knew so good to go. And if there was traffic on the road, that journey could easily have been 2 hours, 2.5 hours. The M1 is horrendous. No traffic, it was bank holiday, so no traffic. It was easy, smooth riding. I got there in now 15 minutes rather than an hour and a half. And I knocked and I found his car was outside, knocking on the door, and no answer. And that's when I knew that something was off. Okay, not before that. I was thinking, why am I doing this? I just trusted it that, okay, I have to go. I knocked on the door, he didn't open. So guess what? Typically out of the movies, I started breaking the door down. So I broke one of the windows, and that meant he realized she means business. So he came down, he opened the door. Then I pushed him aside and I just ran up the stairs. Why did I run up the stairs rather than going in? I have no idea. But I did. I pushed him aside and ran upstairs, and I caught his girlfriend literally half naked running to the bathroom. And she was about to shut the bathroom. I opened it, caught her, wasn't ready. It was a very good exchange between themselves. And then he comes up the stairs and he tells me,
we're getting feedback, Gull. Hold on 1 second. Let's see what happened. Are you getting feedback as well?
I'm not.
Give us 1 second. We're live, but I'm going to see if we can figure out where this feedback's coming from.
I'm not hearing anything, Mother.
Well, I'm going to hope that it's not audible on your side. So if you're not hearing it, we're going to press on. Because this story, I'm like, I got to hear how the story ends. What happens?
So obviously, and that was weird. Anyway, we had a conversation, whatever, and that's when he said to me, okay, he doesn't want to leave me either. Apparently, he doesn't want to leave me either. Okay, and I'm like, I look at him, dude, I'm gonna leave you, right? Not the other way around. I've lost you, April.
Also, there I am. Okay, I was just moving what I thought was causing the interference. So he wanted both. So okay.
And he actually believed. One of his friends actually called me up and said, "Oh, by the way, he told me that he goes, oh, this is something else." He goes, "Don't get angry at me. Don't get mad at me. I've not done anything wrong. I've married her." I'm like, huh? What? So apparently he thought I would get upset if he had marriage, because I'm very, religious. He thinks I would be more upset if he had sex outside marriage. So the best way to tell me was, "I married her. Don't worry about it."
Wow. Okay. Okay.
I'm like, dude. Anyway, so and then his friend called me, and then okay, that was the end. I picked up the kids, and by the way, the kids witnessed all of this as well. That's the sad fact. but because they're with me. But anyway, I mean, I'm very, very good at how I deal with my kids. So my kids don't have any negative feelings toward their father because I made sure of it. They have a very, very healthy and happy relationship, both of them do, with their dad. That's my responsibility as a mother, to make sure they have a good relationship. But anyway, I picked up the kids and I went back home, and had his cousin or friend, someone call me up after and say, look, it's done now. He's married. You have to accept it. I'm like, why do I have to accept it? He goes, because in Islam, men are allowed 4 wives. I'm like, yes, I agree. In Islam, men are allowed 4 wives. But in Islam, if the first wife doesn't want the second wife, she can tell the husband to take a hike. And I'm telling him to take a hike. I'm allowed to, right? So he is allowed to use his privilege. I'm allowed to use my privilege. I'm well within my rights. And I am. So good. So, whatever. And so then I filed for divorce, whatever. And the reason why he agreed was because I didn't sue him for adultery. I could have done that, but I didn't. I said just mutual consent, move out, leave it, and then we did it, and we did it that way, and we're able to go through divorce a lot quicker. But that was a story, and that was the way out. That was and that actually made me realize. Then all the other things opened up about the things, about the casinos, about whatever, about the prostitutes, about everything under the sun came up afterwards, and the other affairs. And I think somebody said to another person, like, why is she getting upset so now? He's been with girls since the beginning. Why is she upset about this now? If I'd known about it before, would I still be with him? But anyway, apparently she wasn't the first. There were multiple. And he's been gone for quite a few years. Well, and while I kept thinking he was ill.
Oh, I can't believe he married her too. I mean, wow.
No, he didn't. Oh no, he didn't.
That was just a story.
That was just his way of making. He actually believed
it would make it okay.
Yeah, that if he married her, and I forgot to mention that part. So I later found out she was pregnant at the time, by the way, and had I come many later, they were scheduled to go in for Islamic marriage at 11 o'clock.
That same day.
That same day. So they were just going to go in to get Islamic marriage done, so the nikah's done. So they were scheduled to get married that day. That didn't happen because I turned up at 10:15. But yeah, they were supposed to go around the mosque around the corner to them, and they were scheduled to have the nikah done. So they were supposed to get married, but they never did. And he thought, if he told me that he's married her, I won't think bad of it. I don't know where that mentality comes from.
Oh my gosh, what a story. This has got to be a memoir. This has got to be a movie. I mean, you can't make this up. Truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, and then I mean the same person who I am now. I mean, I look back and I've forgiven him unconditionally. I have. That's the first thing I do. And something I teach quite a bit is that forgiveness is a path to prosperity. You can't prosper while you're holding grudges and negative feelings to other people. That's why when you hear me talk about it, I laugh about it. I'm not upset. I'm not anything like that. And when I see him, I'm friends with him on purpose. Reason, because if I have any negative feelings towards him, it will reflect on my children's relationship with him. That's why my kids have such a solid relationship with the dad, because I make it so that his issues, they're gone in the past. And he pulled the financial card. He didn't give me any money. It got to the point where I remember, because I have property, I'm not allowed to have I'm seen as wealthy, but we're going through a divorce, and my property was on hold. I couldn't access it. I couldn't sell it. I couldn't do anything with it, remember? And the government would not give me anything because I'm wealthy. They can't give me income support. I can't have income support. I have income coming from rental income. So I remember there was one time I was sitting on my dining table at the time, and I had £137, which is what, $160, every 4 weeks coming to me. And that's all I had to feed my kids, to pay the bills, everything. And that's all I had. And he refused to give me anything. All the gold was gone. Everything was gone. It was a complete mess. But wow. It was such a wonderful time, April, because that's where I have a system called 3 Steps to Cash Flow Mastery. It's during this time that my 3 Steps to Cash Flow Mastery was born. So everything I teach, I'm in the unique position. I don't teach from reading from a book or learning from a mentor. I am the mentor because I'm learning from my experience and then teaching onto people. This is why my clients get the results. And this is why I say that there's nothing bad in my life. I wouldn't change a day. Everything that I went through allowed me to become the kind of person I am. And this is the experience that I take to my clients. And this is why my clients get the transformations in their lives, and I help so many people with their lives because of my experience, because of my teaching. I'm not teaching something from a book. I'm teaching from experience. And that time, as awful as it sounds, you know, the £137 and 14 pence, by the way. So don't forget the 14 pence, £137 and 14 pence. That time gave birth to my 3 steps to cash flow mastery system, which works like magic now for everybody else. So again, Devices Energy works in amazing ways.
Yeah. So let's get into that. And what I like is that what you're saying is, hey, I am the mentor. I've lived through this and it comes from this, but you've also read the books. Like you're also aware of the teachings out there. Yeah. You're a voracious reader as well. So we get to stand on the shoulders of giants of, okay, I'm going to benefit from all their information. And then I'm going to feather in my own experience. So let's get into those, the 3 steps to cash flow mastery. Talk to us about those.
Okay. So I'm going to first agree with you. I don't think that you can come up with a new system. I think your subconscious takes in all the things you read and everything you sort of take in by osmosis sometimes, you know, as you read through books and audiobooks and so forth. And then it comes up with a system which is you call your own, but it's probably an amalgamation of everything combined in a new version. Mm-hmm. So I don't think I have my own system. I think I've just developed it because of the reading I had in my experiences. But my experiences helped me to relay it in a very authentic, you know, honest way and give them real examples. So that's how that works. So 3 steps to cash flow mastery, very quickly, is a system I've put together where you can use the income that you already have, but you spend your money in a way that allows you to make more money, allows you to attract more money. So going back to the idea of, you know, having a relation with money. So I'm a big proponent of making money your best friend. I really am. I think money needs to be your best friend, and that's it. That's another conversation. We can have a longer one. But succinctly, I'm trying to put this as succinctly as possible. In order for you to have more money, you need to have a better relationship with money. And this 3 steps to cash flow mastery is almost like a hack, a way for you to develop that relationship with money without being superficial, without such affirmation. Money loves me, I love money. That's a very superficial affirmation, and it doesn't work for people because it's very superficial. There's there's no reason for you to believe that or for money to trust you on that matter, right? So the 3 steps are as follows, and please bear with me because it may sound like, oh, this sounds a bit weird, but they work. This works like magic. I can't even stress how brilliant this works. So the very first step is you're going to have 5 separate bank accounts. Now, I say 5 bank accounts because I don't want to have easy access to the money. But people, the clients so far, you know, I know there's people all over the world and they can't open 5 bank accounts, or for whatever practical reasons, when you're starting off, you have a small amount of money. So it may be worth you starting off with 5 envelopes, 5 boxes, 5 jars. It's fine. But if you are not using bank accounts, if you're using 5 jars, etc., be very disciplined in terms of where the money is spent and how you allocate money into it. So that's very, very important. As long as it's disciplined, you can use 5 jars and 5 envelopes, okay? So the very first thing is have 5 jars, 5 envelopes, or ideally 5 bank accounts. You don't have to be worried about the ROI or monthly interest because we're not doing it for that reason. All right, so 5 accounts or 5 jars. And then you're going to label them accordingly. The very first one's going to be called under your name. So it has to have your name in it. So for example, your jar would be called April's jar. April's money, okay? Mine is called Gull's money. So it has to have your name on that jar or on that account. It's your money, okay? I'm going to label them first, and then I'm going to come back and explain to you why. The very first one is me account. It's under your name. It has to have your name. The second one is going to be fun account. The third one is large purchases. The fourth one is charity, and the fifth one is debt/investment account. Okay, that's how they are. So let's go back to the first one, me account. Now, Robert Kiyosaki, all mentors talk about this. You need to pay yourself first. You have to pay yourself first. So this is that principle. You have to pay yourself first. And it's your account. Now, I don't want you to have a savings account. I don't want you to have a rainy day account. Why? Because when you have a rainy day, you're manifesting a rainy day to appear. Sooner or later, your rainy day will appear and the jar will become empty. We don't want that, okay? There's so many different layers to this. So you want the universe to know I matter. I know I value, and you want to tell your subconscious mind, I matter, I value me. This money belongs to me. So the very first one, the account is for you and you alone. You do not spend this. You do not invest this. Yes, you can put it in a safe, I don't know, maybe bond something. So somewhere, once it gets to a large enough sum, you can put it somewhere it gets some kind of ROI. You don't have to stick it into a bank account with no interest. But you don't do anything with it. You don't want to lose the money, okay? This is very important. And you need to have easy access. This is the key. You need to have easy access to it at all times. That assurity that you get is something that you need, because what you'll do is at some point you start believing, I have money, because you're never going to spend this. Never, ever, 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 ever. You're never going to spend it. So this money is always going to be you. Now, yes, the question is, over time, inflation would devalue the money. That's besides the point, okay? We are doing this for other reasons, not to actually save. And we're not having a saving account. So this money is in there. And this money is also to actually reinforce you in your mind, and you get into the habit of, I deserve money first. Keep in mind, we are using the laws. This 3 steps to cash flow mastery uses both spiritual laws and man-made laws. We combine the two together to for this, and this is why this 3 steps work so well. So the first one is me account. The second one is fun. Now, why fun? Because up until now, most people, when they think about money, they think about bills, mortgage, this thing, car payments, whatever. It's always stress related to payments going out with money. Money is always going out. Money is always for this and that, whatever. We don't think of the fun. And even if you do have fun, like if you book a holiday or if you go to the cinema, you're like, oh, damn, I spent £100 today on this. Or, oh my God, I've spent this, whatever. It's always the negative feeling after. Not like, oh my God, I made money and I was able to spend £100 on me going to cinema. No, it's the other, oh, okay, let me see how I can work the finances out. So no. And this is something, it's funny how I've learned everything from my background. This actually was born from the idea that you need to develop a relationship with money. And when in my corporate world, how do we develop a relationship with our peers? By going and having these fun projects, right? We go away and we do these weekends away or whatever, and with these team building exercises. What we're doing then? We're having fun. Why? Because when you're having fun, endomorphins are released. Your neurons are making these new synaptic connections with these people, with these neurons presence. So you feel happier in their presence. And guess what? When you're happy, you are more likely to trust, and you build trust that way. And that's how you build rapport, and that's how you build relationships. We're using the same principles here, but this time with money, right? So this fun account. So money is going to come here. Now, first of all, instead of thinking, oh my God, how I'm going to spend this money, all the way the money is going to go out, you over time, remember this requires about 3 months to implement. So it's not going to happen overnight, but over 3 months, this will flip the switch on how you think of and view money. So then you would actually think, okay, fine. The money's going to come in and I'm going to go, I want to go to the cinema, or I'm going to go here. And now keep in mind, I keep it very practical. In my darkest times or my lowest times, I think I couldn't afford anything. And I'm a real Bollywood muff. I love movies, doesn't matter, Bollywood, Lollywood, anyway, Turkey movies. I love movies, right? So my fun for me and my kids was the movies. So I would save up, and our fun would be every 2, 3, 4 weeks, we get to go to the movies. Initially, I didn't have the money for for nachos or popcorn or something, and I was smuggled them in my bag. But it was fun just to be able to go and do that with my kids. Okay, sometimes I'll take them to the special offers of 175 for whatever, the early morning shows or whatever. It doesn't matter. You do what you can, but it was fun, and we look forward to it. And I guess what's happening here? You're enjoying it once it happens, but before it actually happens, you're preempting it. You're thinking about it. You're enjoying it beforehand. Guess what you're doing? At the same time, you're thinking how the fun things with money. You're building a solid relationship with money. Rather than thinking, oh my God, all the way money's going to go out and the stress of it, you're thinking all the ways you can have fun with money. Can you see we flip the switch with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fun. The second one, these I go into more details in this in my abundance workshops and after I think a couple of episodes on this on my podcast as well. But I'm trying to rush through this at the moment. Number 3 is large purchases. Now, large purchases is important because we all hear about delayed gratification, right? Let me ask you this. When you pay things on credit cards, how many times do you pay, right? You don't pay once, you pay multiple times. Every time you see the statement, you are paying with your energy, with your demeanor, and actually, what you end up doing is you're getting into the negative cycle of debt, getting more and more and more into debt. So we want to flip the switch for that. Instead of you paying for it multiple times, you save up. So, for example, you want to go and you want to buy a new Apple Mac, or you want to buy, an iPad or Apple Watch or something. I'm Apple fan, as you can tell. So you go and have those in your, is your thing. Okay, I need to buy this. Instead of buying it now and putting in a credit card, you would save first and buy later. Now, again, look what we did. Do you buy once or do you multiple times? Now, every time you look into the account, and as the account's building up, you're buying it, you're enjoying the item already. So again, you're building the other way around, and you're enjoying it and being in the energy of being abundant. I've got the money to go and buy my watch soon. I've got the money to go and buy this phone. I've got the money. And guess what? Every time you think of money, you don't have money because you paid all the bills. With this, Every time you think about money, you think, I have money. I have money. And guess what you're teaching yourself inside of it? I have money. Can you see what this is going? This works on so many different layers. It's amazing. Number 4 is charity. Now, when it comes to charity, I don't care who you give to. I don't believe in tithing to the church or the mosque alone. You can if you want to. There's no harm in that. But there's nothing. For me, there's a couple of conditions when it comes to charity. One, it has to be given unconditionally. Unconditionally. There's no bargaining with God. There's no bargaining. Like, in my religion, they say, oh, if you give 1 to God, God gives you 10. Hell no. Why do I want 10? I want him to give billions. I can give him 1 because that's all I can afford. Why should he only give me 10? He can afford to give me billions. Let him give me billions. Right? That's the bargaining aspect of it. I really don't agree with. You give unconditionally because that's what you can give. Right? You're willing to give. Let divine energy give back to you what it wants to give. Be open to receiving whatever comes your way. Okay? But there's no bargaining. There's no expectation of I'm going to get back because I'm giving. No, you're giving unconditionally. And the second one, you need to pick someone that you resonate with. So it has to be not someone that you're told you to tie to church or tie to this. You can if it resonates with you, but if it doesn't, don't. Give it to someone that resonates with you. If a cat's charity resonates with you, I'm a cat person, of course, or if dolphins or tigers or elephants, whatever, all homeless people or kids or whatever. My biggest projects that I'll be working on will be young girls and educating them in the future, because that's what resonates with me the most, because I want to empower young girls that they can become independent and don't have to rely on the father, the brother, the husband, or the son. They can be their only person. So has to be a charity that resonates with you. So those are the only 2 conditions I have for this, and then whatever you want. The 5th account is debt and investments. Now, people can either use it for debt, pay off the debt early, or in my opinion, the best way is to split the account in 2, half into paying off the debts early and half into investments. Why investments? Because as soon as we think of investments, we think of wealthy people. Who invest? Wealthy people do. So when I think of investment, I think of Bill Gates. I think of other people. I'm not sure I really like Bill Gates, but poor example. But anyway,
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett or whatever. Yeah, Warren Buffett. So you think of investing. When you think of investing, you think of rich people, right? Richard Branson and so forth. So what you do is when you put yourself in the investor, coming back to the labels, people, remember we talked about earlier. When we have these labels and we have these associations where labels mean this and labels mean that, and this means that and this means that, if we attach a label that already has positive connections, like an investor, we've put that label on ourselves, and guess what? We automatically uplift ourselves to that particular aspect. We are now wealthy. Even though we haven't got there yet financially, if we're an investor, we're getting there. Can you see how powerful this is? Really powerful strategy, and this is why this works so well, because it works not just practically, we're using the man-made laws, but it works on spiritual and universal laws too. So the next question is, okay, that sounds so great, Gull. How do we put money into them? Okay, and remember, I've done this when I was literally had nothing. Okay, so this strategy, the step 3, is the most important part, and it works for absolutely everyone. Now I have a 3-tier system for this. Somebody who was absolutely struggling, how I was when I first started this. If you don't have money for food, you start with this strategy, okay? And this is where you take 1% of whatever you get, whatever income you get, you put into each of our bank accounts. Now, if you struggle with 1%, you can start with 0.5%, but percentage is important, because as the money you get increases, you can increase the percentage and the amount. If you stick to $1, you won't increase the amount, I promise you. So the percentage is important. You put the percentage up, start off with 1%, 0.5%, or even 0.25%, but start somewhere, okay? And what you do is start with 1%. 1% into each of the 5 bank accounts. That means start with a $100 analogy. You put $5 into these first. Now, paying in the order is very important. The very first, the next time you get $100, the very first person you pay, guess? Yourself. Me count. $1 goes here. $1 goes in the other 5 bank accounts. There's $5 used. You have $95 for everything else. Now, if you're struggling and think, oh, I don't know if I can manage it, I promise you can, because I promise you, you're already spending money on fun. You're already doing other things. Okay, all you need to do is reorganize your finance somewhere, see where your money is leaking. Everybody has money leaking out, by the way. See where your money is leaking out, and you can reorganize your finances. It gives you an excuse to look at your finances too, and do this and implement the strategy. Okay, so 5% goes here, and then 95% goes into the rest of things. Now, if you have credit card debts, whatever, you pay your normal credit card debt plus anything from the 5th account you can pay towards it as well. Okay, that's how the strategy works, and this is from the beginning. So tier 1 is for those who are struggling. That's from 1 to 3%. So if you are somebody who is maintaining, you're okay. You have some debt, you have some savings, you're not too bad. You're basically making ends meet, but you're not struggling, but maintaining, but you're not comfortable yet. You start off with 3% and build it up to 5. Now that means starting with $100 again, $3 into each of these 5 bank accounts. That means you've spent $15 here, you've got $85 and everything else. Again, you will have to reassess where your money is leaking from. You're still spending some money on fun, whatever. You can put it in, and I can promise you can work. Now, if you are, once that's done, I'll explain to you where I want everyone to start from in a bit, but let me just explain the third tier as well. This is where everyone should be aiming to get to. And I have people who started with 0.5% who are now on this, okay? And this is the comfortable tier. So these are people who have savings, who are maintaining well, and they're comfortable, okay? Those people, they would put 5 to 10% into each of these 5 bank accounts using the 5% scenario, 5% to each of these 5 bank accounts, that's 25% used, and 75% for the rest of the expenses. Now, everyone, regardless of where you're starting off, should start with 1 or 0.5%. Why? Because it will be uncomfortable. It is different. It's a new strategy. Start with the 1%, do it for 3 months, and then depending on what your income level is, and even that, with that, you'll start seeing the results. You start seeing how you feel and think differently about money. You start implementing that into your life, and then you can start increasing it to 1.5%, 2%, 2.5%, 3%, and so forth. Make sense?
Wow, that's amazing. That's a great strategy. I want to see it written out. For those who are listening, we're going to put the links in the show notes so you can see her content and the strategy, because I think seeing that actually written out, I'm sure you've got some kind of infographic or some amazing way that it's highlighted. It's powerful.
Yeah, we do. I've spoken about this on my podcast, Money Mindset with Gull Khan as well. It's written out there as well. But we don't have written of it. We do have a cheat sheet, but it's not for free available. Unfortunately, it's on for
Sure.
It's part of all our programs. But the actual strategy is something I talk about quite freely. I have, like I said, an episode and podcast on this. It's called 3 Steps to Cash Flow Mastery, one of the early episodes on my podcast series. Plus, it's something that I go through extensively in our abundance workshops, which we do very frequently as well.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. So you definitely got to check that out. We're going to go look at it again as well here on the PivotMe team. One question I want to be cognizant of our time, but a couple follow-up questions on that. One is, I know that you've talked a lot about how sort of your identity is holding your money hostage. And before you came online, we were talking about both labels and the money story that we kind of get from our parents. So can you talk quickly on how your identity is holding your money hostage?
So it does. And I think this is where I mentioned to you before that I'll give you some, a few examples how I had manifested my mother's exact life. Okay. And I had become a single mother, and I was a cliche single mother struggling with 2 kids. And it was only when my aunt brought it to my attention that I realized, what the hell am I doing? Really? What? I don't even know if she was doing it out of sniding or being supportive. I don't know what her intentions were, honestly, but it was something I need to hear from the divine energy, and I'm so grateful for it. It's when she brought it to my attention, I realized not only had I manifested my mother's exact life, I had also followed on to all the labels of single mother struggling with time, money, crying, and everything. So the labels are really, really, really important. So this is something that I've talked about quite extensively in my mastermind, where you need to shift your mindset about who you are. So if you're currently identifying with being, for example, me, when I was trying to build a business, I was still a lawyer trying to build an online business as a coach. It was conflicting identity. Okay, you need to let go of the labels of who you are first, and that is why you have to let go of identity. So if you identify with being, for example, me, if I identify with being a brown girl, all the things with brown girl, I mean, a brown girl in a white man world, what the hell am I doing here, right? I really am that cliche, okay? Because this person development area is usually for white men, right? Generally, if you look around it, few women are coming about, but there are few brown women, very few, right? So that's one of the labels, but I don't follow that label. I don't adhere to that. I actively have negated it. The fact that I'm a woman, okay, and in my culture, everything I'm doing is a taboo because of it. I had to let go of that label, right? So everything that makes up who you are, you need to look at it and see what aspects of it is it holding you back, and then let go. It doesn't mean I stop being. I'm because I stopped following the fact that I'm a brown woman doesn't make me stop being a brown girl, but I stopped letting the negative aspects of it hold me back. So I am living in London, and that's empowering because I can live in London and do everything. We live in the Western world. I instead of thinking that the government's trying to control me or whatever, fall into that trap. That's another conversation for another time. But I can say, okay, I'm empowered. I live in a free world. I have the ability to speak my mind. So it doesn't matter what aspect of your identity that is holding you back, you can flip it. Remember I said to you about the silver lining in every cloud? You need to go and find out that about your identity, because it could be that your identity is holding you back. Now, I had identified with being a single mother. That had pulled me into my aspects of my belief of what single mother should look like. Someone who's struggling, someone who's frustrated, someone who's sad, someone who's going up against the world. She has no time for herself, blah, 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 blah. All those scenarios. When I let go of that, I don't call myself a single mother. I call myself a parent. I'm co-parenting with their dad. Yes, he doesn't support me financially. He doesn't need to anymore. I don't need his money anymore. But we are co-parent. I'm a co-parent. I'm not a single mother. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm financially responsible for my kids, but then I choose to be. So you have to change the labels you use for yourself and what you identify with, because that identity of yours, your old identity, can be holding your money hostage in the way, because it's disempowering you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I 100% agree. Makes complete sense. And, I think there's so much power. I was jotting notes down as you were talking about it. I loved it. I loved, earlier you made the comment about putting the label of investor on you. And so what I heard is a combination of putting labels on you and tearing other ones off you that don't serve you, because you're living into the identity of I'm a single mom, and this is what single moms' lives look like. And then we just kind of play that out. And instead you redefined it. It's amazing how much we really are just living out our stories. One of the question that I'm about to ask you, but I'll tee it up. One of the things that, really, if I could tell the world one thing, it would be change your story and you change your life. That's really at the heart of I would say do the work to change your story, because it's not just about just telling yourself a new story. Yeah. You have to do the work too. But that's really at the heart of so much of my messaging. So let me do this. Let me ask you the same question. If you could tell the world one thing, what would that be?
I would say change your mindset to change your life. It's all about mindset. It's all about mindset. So change your mindset to change your life. Everything is possible. I mean, Joseph Murphy talks about this quite a bit in his multiple his books. And I really do believe you have all the answers. You have absolutely all the answers. And if we want to talk it scientifically, let's talk in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind has absorbed so much from the books you read, from the things around you, and also from the ethos of the universe, because you do pick up psychically things around you as well. You have all the knowledge you could possibly need to attain everything in your life. And the only one holding you back is you. So you need to first accept whatever you desire, whatever it is. By the way, sometimes those desires are bloody daunting. They're bloody awful. Like, oh my God, I don't want to live up to that, because you have to grow. I talk about this quite a bit, that in order for you to gain your desires, in order for you to bring your desires into the 3D world, you have to grow. That's the reason why you're given the desires by the universe in the first place, right? You have to grow. So sometimes those desires are like, oh, how do I get this? How do I get hold of this? Well, you have to grow, dude. Okay, grow, right? And that's where you have to grow, and you have to, expand as a person. But you have all the answers. Your subconscious mind has all the answers. And if you're spiritual, divine source energy has all the answers. You can get guidance from it. So if you accept this idea, and I don't believe in this idea that, I did a podcast on this recently. I don't believe that you have a desire and then you give that off to the universe. I think it's the other way around. I really do believe it's the other way around. The universe has, it's like a warehouse. It already has all the stuff that's ready for you. Once that stuff is ready for you, it gives a signal to your subconscious mind, dude, that Bentley that that's supposed to be for him, it's ready. Tell him that he wants a Bentley now. So your subconscious mind brings it to your conscious awareness. Oh, I want a Bentley. And then you see all these Bentleys, for example, my one at the moment is white Bentley with a red cherry, all that stuff. That is brought to your attention. That's there. That's available for you. You should have a desire for it. You should want it. And you're like, I want a Bentley. Universe, can I have a Bentley? Dude, it's already there for you. You just have to bring it into your world. And the only way for you to bring it is to grow, because that's the only way you're going to make money. And in order for you to make money, you have to grow. You have to provide a solution to someone's problems. And the more solutions you provide, the more money you make. So you have to grow as a person, provide more solutions so you can have the money to get the Bentley. That's the process. The universe doesn't care that you want Bentley. The universe cares about your growth as a person. And that's what we're after.
Yeah. That's such a good concept of you don't ask the universe for it. The universe has already kind of teed you up for it. It's just a matter of you going out and making it happen. I love that shift. That's really good. So I've got one other question for you, but before I do that, where can people connect with you? So we're going to put it in show notes too, but just tell us, where is the best place to connect with you online?
The best place, I think, if you like what I say, like listen to me gobble going on and on, is probably my podcast, which is Money Mindset with Gull Khan. I talk about things from raw, authentic ways. My next episode is going to be about how having my heart broken was the best thing that happened to me in my 20s. I talk about these things because I think people can learn from my life lessons and how to view about money, because everything comes back to money as far as I'm concerned. So I think my podcast is probably the best way, Money Mindset with Gull Khan. But you can also find me on Facebook, which is on my business page, which is The Gull Khan, or everywhere else on Instagram, I'm Money Mindset with Gull Khan. With YouTube, it's Money Mindset with Gull Khan. LinkedIn is Money Mindset with Gull Khan. So everywhere else is Money Mindset with Gull Khan.
Money Mindset with Gull Khan. Before I ask my last question, what I heard through your story over and over again was the story of resilience. There are many highs, but also profound lows in your stories. And it was this constant story of resilience, this constant story of, the phoenix rising from the ashes. And then the phoenix gets incredibly powerful with these huge biceps. It goes and kicks some butt afterwards. That just keeps repeating in your story. And I love that you are now using your platform and your life experiences and your, all the things that have come together to create this perfect, I don't want to say perfect storm, that's got a negative connotation, but this perfect, trajectory of, okay, now I can go out and people can benefit from these stories. So I love that the story is of resilience. I love that the story isn't, I got knocked down and then I just stayed down, because that is so easy to do. So I'm grateful that you shared this story with us. So let me ask you the final question. So what is next for you? What's next for Gull?
That's a good question. So I have my aims. Like I said, I have my desires, and I really do believe these desires have been given to me by God. I really do believe that. I believe every single person here has a purpose. My purpose, I think the main reason why I became a lawyer, I'm an advocate, right? So I've become an advocate for money. I think my role on this earth is to change people's perceptions, ideas, and feelings towards money, because abundance is for your benefit, not for your harm, not to actually manipulate you, not to actually cause you distress and discomfort. It's there to support you. And I really do believe the universe is out there, and it wants you to get everything you can get in this life and live this life fully. And in order for you to do that, you have to accept the fact that universe is on your side. And in order for you to accept that, you have to allow money into your life. And this is why my role is to become one of the word leaders or thought leaders when it comes to how people feel, think, and deal with money.
Oh, that's so good. What a great goal. No doubt. You've got a long history of doing exactly what you set your mind out to do. So no doubt that is in the cards for you. Apparently it's already in a warehouse waiting for you, and you're doing the work to receive it.
Oh yeah.
That is good. Well, thank you so much for your insight, for your story, for your vulnerability. What an amazing journey you have been on and continue to be on. And I'm so glad that you shared some of that. Again, we'll put the links, we'll put the information in the show notes. Definitely reach out, listen to the podcast, pop on that website, get familiar with her content, because what an amazing journey you've been on. And I love that this is who you are now, that you're going out and changing. You're an advocate for money, and you're changing the relationship with that people have with money. And the piece that I think we discussed before we actually went live is, what I love about it is you're doing this with very particular people. So it's not just, okay, you want a Bentley? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with having a Bentley, but you've got to want something more. We were talking about working with contribution-focused entrepreneurs. You're working with people that are going to do great things, that they're going to support the orphanage in the Philippines. They're going to support, a dog and cat animal rescue. that they're doing great things with this money.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the exact kind of people that you want to work with, that you want to impact, because they can go out and impact the world in such large, profound ways. Because money's a tool. And if we have a bigger hammer, we can do a lot more
Agreed.
work with that hammer.
Agreed. And I think this is very important. But I think like attracts like. The kind of person that I am and the kind of person you are, that's the kind of clients you'll attract, because anybody else wouldn't resonate with my energy, wouldn't resonate with what I say. And because I do focus on building a relationship with divine energy, whatever name you give it. I'm Muslim, so my label for it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your name could be whatever. And even if you don't have a label, you call it universe, I'm good with that. So I'm all about building your relationship with a higher source, a higher power, and then knowing that you have a purpose, and not just to enjoy your life, but you have a purpose and you can recognize and go and fulfill that purpose, whatever it may be. But money is something that every single person needs, regardless of the purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's so important. Oh, thank you so much for this information. And I know that this won't be the last time that we talk, so let this just be the beginning. All right. We are going to hop off live. Thank you so